Hi team, I wanted to jump on here before we start this episode to give you all a content/trigger warning for eating disorders, diet culture, diets and exercise regimes. We go in quite deep into this episode and I can appreciate that being very triggering for some people who are sensitive to that. And I also wanted to add, if you are someone who is struggling with eating disorders, you can contact the organisation BEAT, BEAT, and you can talk to them over the phone, over like a chat online, and also email, and they can direct you to get the help that you need. I have used them myself when I was getting officially diagnosed with my eating disorder, so I can vouch that it is a helpful service, or at least it was a helpful service for me. So please look after yourselves. Only press play if you feel that you can listen to that. I would hate to trigger anyone into any kind of negative thinking. Okay, I'll speak to you soon. Hello and welcome to Fats on Film. I am your host, Hannah Ogilvie, and this is the podcast where we discuss all things fat representation in film, TV, and wider media. This week, I have returning guest from the Hairspray episode. It's Ghouls Magazine contributor, Sarah Miles. Hello, Sarah.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I am good. I am very good and happy to be here again. Thank you so much for having me back.
Honestly, you're my second returning guest, and there's just something so nice about people coming back into my house. It means I haven't scared them off. It means we had good conversation. You want to come back for more. Yay!
No, absolutely.
So I think we need to have a little bit of context of what this episode is going to be about, because this is not going to be your normal episode of Fats on Film where listeners will know we take a film and we dissect it. We go into the fat representation. We also go into other, kind of adjacent things like patriarchal issues, misogyny, all that good stuff. And when Sarah and I spoke about Hairspray, which was a fantastic episode, and I was so thankful, Sarah, for your musical theatre knowledge. You came in clutch with that. We actually ended up going on a massive tangent during that recording about Marvel. And I said to you, this is all really good stuff, but I'm going to have to cut it out because it's got nothing to do with Hairspray.
Yeah.
But then you messaged me and you were like, let's talk about Fat Thor. So here we are.
Fat Thor. Oh, Fat Thor.
Yes. So I think, I probably will just put in the episode title, kind of Marvel or superhero, I don't know, influence. But I guess, from a film point of view, the specific, film... That's a really good catalyst is the depiction of Fat Thor in 2019's Avengers Endgame. So again, I'll do the usual thing, which is I will go through what Avengers Endgame did critically, commercially, because that's what I usually do. This is actually kind of wild. I mean, it's one of those things where I knew of it, but I didn't know of it. So let me get to my notes. Here we go. So 2019 superhero film is the 22nd film of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, and written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. The marketing alone for this film was $200 million, which is insane to think about, because I saw the budget and it's something like one of the most expensive films ever made, and I thought, well, you have an ensemble cast, you've got people in there who are probably pulling in easily $20 million for just this one film. Maybe that's why. No, it's because half of it went on marketing. And it has made $2.8 billion at the box office, making this the biggest film we've ever covered on this podcast, and it's the 5th highest grossing film worldwide of all time, and it was nominated for Best Visual Effects at the Oscars in 2020. And I could go into the cast list, but you've got your usual suspects. You've got Robert Downey Jr., you've got all the Chris's, you've got Scarlett Johansson, you've got Jeremy Renner, you've got loads of good people. If you watch any of the Marvel films, whatever they were in, they're in this one. And I wanted to get your first takes of how were you excited for Endgame, coming off of Infinity War into Endgame and the end of is this phase 3, phase 4?
Oh geez.
Testing you now.
Right. With the phase, it's I don't pay a lot of attention to the phases, but oh geez, now I have to look this up because I'm pretty sure
I'm Googling it now. I'm literally Googling it now because I was like, I should know this. Yeah, so phase 3, so 2016 to 2019. Yeah. There you go. So this is the end of phase 3, the fourth Avengers film, the biggest film they did. Yeah, were you excited?
I was. No, I absolutely was. And I actually went to a midnight showing.
Oh.
See, the thing was, is like the day that it was coming out, um, I watched Infinity War in the morning. I watched that with my dad, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll see Endgame later.
Mm,
And then a mate of mine was like, hey, I've got a spare ticket to a double feature of Infinity War before midnight.
right.
Endgame want to come.
That's
So I
what.
ended up watching Infinity War twice that day.
Wow. I mean, you're
Um,
committed to the cause.
but the weird thing is that in between that, I actually watched this random horror movie, The Curse of La Llorona.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it's like I had a screening of that, and then I watched Avengers Infinity War, then Endgame. I had a very big day, and like,
Wow.
yeah, three quarters of what I watched that day was Avengers.
I mean, I could not compete with that. I am very much I mean, it's one of those things where like my history with Marvel is, I was into it when it first started. I was excited. I really like the original Iron Man. I really like the original Thor, even though I do think Thor gets better as his franchise continues. Oh, bar the last one, I haven't seen it.
I didn't want to like
See, I don't mind the second Thor. People really hate the second Thor, but I'm like, I don't think it's that bad. And then I like Thor Ragnarok, because again, everyone does. And then I haven't seen the latest one. I like Avengers Assemble. I don't like Captain America. He's my least favorite.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I just think it's just too righteous. And I know that's the whole point. And I know he comments on it himself, especially as his arc continues, but it just rubs me the wrong way. I do appreciate that he does become a lot more self-aware, like the whole like that is America's ass thing. That is funny, and I will give them credit for that joke. But yeah, I think I just got to a point, and I actually think, I mean, again, I'm saying something that's been said a million times before me, which is at the end of Endgame, it was done. And I think it really struggled to pick up that momentum back up again.
Oh, it
Because,
absolutely has at
yeah.
100%.
And going into I guess we're phase 4, phase 5 now, it's just so oversaturated that I wouldn't even know where to start if I was to pick it back up again. I did watch WandaVision because again it looked just different and that intrigued me. But everything else from like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, I didn't see Black Widow. I haven't seen the second Black Panther. I haven't seen the second Doctor Strange. Oh, I hate Doctor Strange. I just I actually made a comment when Benedict Cumberbatch comes back into the film. I really, really, really want to know what is his direction for his accent, because it is bad. It grates my ears, and I think Benedict Cumberbatch they're all solid actors, right? That's why this is why this franchise has worked so well, because they're all good actors. They're all bringing their own brand with them into these films, but some of them I just don't understand, like their acting decisions, and Benedict Cumberbatch being one of them. And I will always, always, always have time for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I think
Oh, he's adorable. And I mean, like, since Endgame,
Mhm.
probably like Spider-Man No Way Home is probably
Yes.
the highlight.
Yes, and that is the only one I have seen in the cinema since all these shenanigans. And I also saw Across the Spider-Verse. I know it's different, but it is still
Yeah, yeah.
superhero, and it is still Spider-Man. So I have a real affinity for Spider-Man. I didn't realize that until I started speaking about it. But yeah, I love Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I think he's effortlessly charming, and he breaks my heart in this film, I have to say, even though I actually don't care. Like his reaction really gets to me.
Oh,
Uh,
completely. Yeah.
yeah. So, but the big thing of this film is, so it starts after like 23 days after the snap has happened, and they find Thanos on some island. He's on his own. Oh yeah, Captain Marvel, I've never seen her film. She comes in and she's like, you need my help. They go, they kill Thanos, all good. But like the Infinity Stones, they've all disappeared and they've all been disintegrated. There's nothing we can do. Thor's actually the one who does the final blow to Thanos, chopping off his head, which I thought was really graphic, actually.
Yeah, and it's because like I mean, I think that is definitely the thing of which we'll definitely get into soon, is
Yeah.
kind of the beginning of Thor's decline as it is.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's like because I mean because the whole thing was like in Infinity War, he hits Thanos in the shoulder. Thanos says
Hmm.
he should have gone for the head, does the snap.
Ah.
Um
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, so I think that's kind of why Thor's so vicious in that moment. And then he says, I went for the head. Like that is
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so that's really interesting context. I didn't know that. So there is this like, I'm trying to rectify the mistake I made in the last one. Because again, like I haven't seen Infinity War since I guess whenever it came out. So I've forgotten a lot of like kind of the building blocks to this film. So with Thor, where he's lost his world, he's lost Asgard, he has lost Loki and Heimdall, right?
Yep. Yep.
So do they die at the beginning of Infinity War?
Yeah, basically. So, all right. I mean, you have to remember it's just like because the end credit scene for Thor Ragnarok is leading into Infinity War.
Yes, because they're on the
So,
they're on the ship.
so within like a space of a week or
Mm.
so, Thor has lost his dad, his
As dad.
friends,
Mm-hmm.
his world, his and like bit of hope. He's heading off. He's got his brother back.
Mm-hmm.
Thanos shows up. He
Mm-hmm.
loses half of his people. He loses Heimdall. He loses Loki. Like, I
So
mean,
and then
they kind of make a reference to that in Infinity War. Um, he's kind of like talking to Rocket, but then of course, being Marvel, it's kind of like, oh, let's skip on to the next thing.
sure. Well, I mean, we're definitely going to get into that because it's a major problem. Um. So he goes into Infinity War. Then he attacks Thanos. He's being like God of Thunder. I will defend my people. My people being everybody.
I mean, the moment he shows up in Infinity War is
Yeah.
amazing. That is like one of the best Marvel movie moments.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Okay. He doesn't manage to stop Thanos, so he takes responsibility because he's like, "Oh, I should have gone for the head. Why did I not go for the head?" Snap! Like half people disappear. Okay, so that's a lot of pressure back on him. So then we go into Endgame. We're 5 years after the snap. We see all of the remaining Avengers are doing their thing. Rhodey's over here. You've got Nebula and Rocket over here. You've got okay. What Captain Marvel, right?
Yeah.
Her
Okay.
Why is she not in this film? Because I don't understand how she's not involved in the time travel bit. She's in at the beginning, she comes in at the end. Like, what's going on?
I mean, I'm not. I mean, kind of like the kind of like thing in universe is that she's off dealing with stuff across space because
Yes.
like Thanos' snap was half of all life in the universe.
Yes.
So it's like basically there's things happening on other planets that they need help as well, kind of thing.
I do hear, and I understood her logic, and it was very much like tongue in cheek of like, why does everything have to happen on Earth?
Yeah.
And again, it's very like sci-fi. It's very Doctor Who's problem, right? Why does everything happen in like modern day England?
Yeah.
So I understood the commentary, but then when they're like doing the time travel stuff where they're trying to resolve the issue for the entire universe, which would impact what she's obviously trying to resolve as well, why would she not get involved in this moment?
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair, and I don't really have an answer for that beyond kind of
No,
like a case of I don't know how long they had Brie Larson for.
no,
Like
that's
that could
it,
be a
right?
factor. Like tons. I mean, maybe they just wanted to keep it to like the core classic Avengers team, but then again, you also have Rhodey and Nebula and
I
Rocket
was
there.
gonna say
So
it's very they're picking and choosing, and I guess as well like the film really I haven't seen her individual film, but the film really makes it clear that this superhero is incredibly powerful, like
yes, she is
probably
a
the
heavy hitter.
yeah, right. So the two times we're introduced to her in the film, it's she's come to save Tony and Nebula from the floating ship in space. And then she helps them kill Thanos. And then she comes at the very end to blow up Thanos' ship. And you're like, so these are big moments where, like, she literally can, like, save all these people if she wants to. And I'm like, okay, cool. So you've set that up, and yet we're not actually using her. And I don't know whether, again, it's from a plot point of view where they want to, like, make sure they're keeping their, like, most powerful weapon in their pocket.
I
I
mean,
don't.
maybe I'm not. I think I think it's less of a story reason, more of a production reason.
Yeah. Has she got a second film?
No, but she's getting, well, I mean, kind of, it's coming up. It's called Marvels, and it's
Marvels.
her,
Hmm.
Ms. Marvel,
Miss Marvel.
Kamala Khan, and also uh Monica Rambeau, who from WandaVision.
Yeah. Yeah, I know who you
Yeah,
mean.
she gets
Yes.
powers, and I think the
Oh, she
conceit.
gets powers.
Well,
Ooh.
yeah, that was kind of like the whole thing of her going through the force field that
She
gave
gets
her
powers via
powers.
that. Right.
So I think the conceit of it is that basically, for some reason, um, anytime each of them uses their powers, they switch places with one of the other ones.
Oh,
So,
that
because
sounds fun.
there's a moment at the end of Miss Marvel where she tries to use her powers, and she gets kind of blown into her wardrobe, and out comes Brie Larson, kind of thing. So they kind of
Okay.
it's anytime one of them tries to use their powers, they switch places. So it's kind of figuring out what's going on with that, because that's weird.
Okay. Well, I mean, all power to her. I hope it's successful. So Tony Stark was like, "Oh, I've worked out how time travel works, and I really appreciate the skipping over that incredibly important plot point because it makes no sense."
Mm.
And he's like, let's do it." And they're like, "Well, we need to bring the team together." So Hulk and Rocket go to New Asgard to get our good friend Thor. And they find Valkyrie. It's interesting her name's actually Valkyrie. Like, why is it not Valkyrie? Were like an army of people. Why is she just Valkyrie?
I mean, yeah, that is the thing, and people call her Val and things.
Yeah,
I
she
mean,
will have a name, right?
well, if she's like the comic Valkyrie, then I'm pretty sure her name is meant to be Brunhilde.
Ah, okay. Are
Um,
you quickly Googling?
maybe. Yeah, it does say that her name is technically Brunhilde. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
everyone just calls her Valkyrie.
yeah, and I don't know whether again, like, I mean, there's so much media about Norse mythology that it kind of like I think a few people, a good chunk of people will know that Valkyrie were an army of people to defend
Yeah,
Odin
and I
and
mean
Asgard.
that's talked about in Ragnarok as well. Like,
Right. So why it's not a specific person anyway. So she's like, "Oh, he won't see you." They go in anyway. So they go into this little house and it's clearly in disarray. Rocket says something about how it stinks. There are pizza boxes, there are bottles, there are beer bottles, beer buckets, and we meet Thor. Thor has gained weight, significant amount of weight, and they really, 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 really want to hammer this home because he is shirtless throughout this scene. So you can see his what was once a six pack of a chiseled god is now a belly. And Rocket says that he looks like melted ice cream.
what does that even mean?
I
Like
mean,
as a description.
yeah, that's a really good point. Like, okay, like thanks.
It's like, like it's like, oh, okay, like we get it. It's meant to become like, food,
Mhm.
fat, da da da. But it's like he might as well have said like, oh, you look like butter.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Or
it's like literally like a fatty food. Ice cream is like dairy, high sugar. It's not like saying he looks like a cucumber,
yeah,
or
or
like an avocado.
yeah. It's like yeah, shape wise, he could have said like, oh, he looks like a potato, but that wouldn't have the same kind of like
Hmm.
fat judgment on
That's it.
attached to it.
Is the connotations, and Thor is actually quite happy to see Hulk, or I guess Bruce Banner, and Rocket. He's clearly intoxicated. He's clearly drinking a lot, and the rock monster, Korg,
Porg.
Korg. He's like, sweetie. He's like, yeah, have a beer, sit down. Um,
We're
they're
playing
playing
Fortnite.
they're playing Fortnite, and then this little asshole gets on the mic, and Thor comes to Korg's defense, and again it's this idea like they've become gamers, and you know the stereotype of the fat gamer. I'm thinking of like the South Park visual of
Mm,
like the guy at the desk, and it's just like this is a known stereotype. These are like this is like to signify laziness. It's also to signify they've escaped into another world because they don't want to face the real world they're in. And I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense for Thor, as we've discussed. This guy is an incredible amount of grief and trauma. He has turned to food and drink, as a lot of people tend to do, because I mean, food is one of those things where, like, as a society, it's something to signify happiness and sadness, celebrant and loss, treat or, you know, just regular food. But at the same time,
mm,
you can never not eat.
mm.
So with eating disorders and food addiction or whatever you might have, in that realm, because like I mean eating disorder is such a catch-22 of all things. There's even like a specific eating disorder called nondescript eating disorder, or non-typical eating disorder, because quite often, to just share a bit of my own personal story, I've had binge eating disorder. I'm in recovery for binge eating disorder, but I've had flicks of anorexia. I have had flicks of bulimia. You know, it's such a normal, I say normal, not to normalize it, but like to
Typical, maybe.
typical to like tip into those other realms of disorder. And so, what was my point? So when I see Thor, who has clearly turned to eating and has clearly turned to drinking, I understand, because a lot of humans go through this experience. It's such a comfort for us, and it's to numb us and to not for me, again, my own personal history. I was eating because I didn't want to confront my own emotions. I was actually quite scared of my emotions. And I can imagine that's where Thor is as well. We see throughout this film, he is so filled with anger, not at Thanos necessarily, but at himself,
Oh, 100%. It is
you know?
definitely like he is essentially kind of like blaming himself for the loss
Yes.
of half the life in the universe.
Half the life. I mean, obviously we cannot comprehend that level
Yeah.
of pressure, but that he 100% thinks it's his fault. And again, throughout the film, he calls himself like the strongest Avenger. And I know that's an inside joke to like back in the day, but like,
Yeah.
but at the same time, that shows how he views himself. Like, I'm the strongest one. I should have stopped this. Like the buck stops with me. And so we have what's his name? Rocket and Bruce. You know what? I find Bruce really frustrating in this scene. And I find sorry, just because
There's something really weird about Bruce in that film in
I
general,
yes,
and I
he
can't entirely put my finger on it.
it's yes, I don't understand. I really really don't. Again, I'm not the biggest Marvel girly, but I love me some Mark Ruffalo. And surely the Bruce that we've known throughout the entire MCU up until this point is he's quite a broody son of a bitch, right? He's angry at the cards that have been dealt him. And in this film, he's made some peace with the Hulk. So it's Bruce and the Hulk together. And we don't actually ever see Mark Ruffalo as Mark Ruffalo. It's always Bruce Hulk or whatever, Hulk Banner. I don't know what his actual like synonym is here. And he is like weirdly joyful and silly and goofy and like totally okay with like turning Ant-Man into a baby and into an old man and then back to like Ant-Man again. And I just think, who is this man? This is not the character that I thought we
Yeah,
knew.
it's like as much as kind of like when the whole 5 years later thing came up in cinema, I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know, because I mean, the whole thing in comic books, and it's a problem with comic books, and it's kind of a problem with the comic book films as well, is status quo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, things generally kind of end up being more or less okay by the end, so that you
Yes.
know you can pick up the next thing, and you're still so like major changes kind of can mess up the not accessibility but just the ease with which people can get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like having that 5 years happen, that skip
Yeah.
5 years, like was very much like it's just like, oh no, we are sticking to this. It
Yes.
to a degree. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. But kind of like, but the thing about that 5 years is clear, like we don't see whatever it is Bruce
No.
goes through that makes him okay with coming to this sort of like meeting point between him and the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, maybe he goes into it in She-Hulk. I haven't seen She-Hulk yet. Um, I
Oh,
don't know.
okay.
I don't know. He might go into that in She-Hulk. That just occurred to me. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but as far as Endgame is, we don't know. Like as
No.
far as watching Endgame, we don't know.
Okay. That's interesting. It would be good to understand a bit more like detail of like yeah. Because in some ways, like I guess it's good. Like he's come to like terms with like the monster, but
Oh
I don't,
yeah.
if we talk about the trauma and the grief and the therapy side of it all. So interesting. Like when Bruce says like we found a way to like get the stones back or whatever, we have a plan. Thor looks at him really like quite trepidatious. He's like, don't give me hope, don't make me have hope. And no,
Yeah, and he has like not quite a breakdown, but he kind of
mm,
goes very insular. He starts
yes,
eating.
I was going to say he sits down, he gets a beer, he starts eating the crisps. Point. In the background, just behind where Thor was sitting, there is a bottle of Iron Brew, and I very much appreciated that. And I was like, I see you, Iron Brew bottle. You can't get away from me because I
Oh,
love Iron Brew.
I mean, yeah, love Iron. I'm also just like, okay, so New Asgard is somewhere in, I think, Norway.
Yes, but it's
Um,
filmed in Scotland.
filmed in Scotland, so that's probably
Yes.
it. But I'm just thinking like, okay, so New Asgard just decided to import Iron Brew. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where, like, again, because it is so not obvious. But I saw it and I was like, that is definitely a nod. That is definitely a nod to people who know that brand. It's there. So also what I wanted to pick up in this point was I think Chris Hemsworth sounds a lot more Australian in this specific scene than I've heard him in previous. And I wanted to get your guess on this. If this was a conscious decision because he's meant to be inebriated.
I mean, mate, I'm not sure about that. I mean, mate, maybe that's just kind of like yeah, maybe that's just Hemsworth's drunk acting just kind of veers back into Australian.
Yes, but then there's a real trope, isn't there, about like kind of like drinking and Australia. And I was like, there's something there that like is almost like this. The whole point of Thor's character is that he has let himself go.
Yeah.
And we hear this a lot when you have characters who were either formerly thin or, who have gained weight or not even that. We don't even know their history. The label that's slapped against them is that they've let themselves go. They've given up. And I think with Thor, like his giving up is like not only with his, signified by his weight gain or the fact he's drinking, it's also the fact like his voice is slipping, like his like royal, grandiose accent that he's been putting off the X amount of films he's been in is slipping as well. And I just find it really interesting. Like his entire image is going, like, his hair is matted, it's greasy. Obviously, he's got this big bushy beard. He's wearing like, just like, I don't even know. They're not like trackies, but like really like
Lounge
loose fitting
pants.
clothes. Yeah, lounge pants, a really good word. Lounge pants. And I just thought like he is a man who clearly needs help.
Yeah.
And you have Rocket saying you look like ice cream. At one point, Rocket also calls him Tubby, which I was like, really? Really, Rocket? Is that? I mean, I know Rocket's not meant to be like the like sensitive type, but come on. We get to Avengers HQ. Thor rocks up. He looks very much like the Big Lebowski.
Tony even calls him that at one point.
He does. He goes drifting left, and he goes wrong side Lebowski. He's drinking. It's a can. I couldn't really tell what it is. I'm assuming it's beer, but I don't know. He burps at one point, and again, we talk about this a lot on the podcast, this idea of like fat people not having any manners when it comes to like their bodily functions. So like Shrek, for example, Homer Simpson. So this idea that like he's burping, like he's, again, it's like let go of all like decorum or respect and manners. And I just think I it's such a weird connotation, this idea of like burping and fatness. but we're reinforcing it again here.
Mm. No,
So
I totally see that. And also like in a lot of those scenes, again, he's eating.
he's e- he's eating a lot, he's drinking a lot. There's a scene where they look over to him and he's fallen asleep and he has his hand down his trousers.
Yeah, it's just like ew. Like that's clearly meant to be the kind of like feeling is meant to is kind of like you are meant to be like a little bit like ew.
Oh, and this is actually the question I was going to ask you, which is like, as an audience, what is the film trying to convey to us with Fat Thor? And not just with the image of him, but with how the other characters are reacting to him.
I mean it's a joke.
Mm.
It is absolutely like meant to be for humor value. And you know, it's you know, I mean, something I'm going to say later, you know, that there is actually some a very you can have a very like significant emotional factor to Fat Four, but on the whole, it's just, you know, jokes about him having cheese whiz for blood. And like there's a bit where it's like they ask him about one of the Infinity Stones, and he's just kind of essentially recapping the plot of Thor 2. And he's
Oh
clearly
yes.
and he's clearly having a breakdown, and everyone's just like, what?
Yeah, it was who asks him, "Oh, well, why don't you just sit down?" He's like, "No, no, no, I've got something to say." Is it Tony? He's like, just take a pew. And he's like, "No, no, I'm not finished." And again, it's just like no one wants to listen to him.
Yeah.
No one wants to hear what he has to say. What he has to say is actually really important to the plan. This is where whatever the stone is during this time period, like we can go get it. And of course he's saying it in the roundabout way. He's drunk, he's obviously not had to speak to these people in 5 years. There's probably a lot of intimidation going on. He's
He's
not
having to think about his dad, he's having to think about his mum, he's
his
having
mum.
to think about his
Oh
ex.
yeah, there's so much going on, and yet they're just like not even like a I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, if I was to have written this scene, I would have, ensured that someone validated this man's feelings. This man had a lot of feelings. Let him express them. But instead, you've got all these side eyes being thrown to all the other characters, being like, "This guy, this is the god of thunder," like, and it's just like, fucking hell, like, where is your humanity? And that's the ironic thing of this whole thing, is they're meant to be saving humanity, saving the souls of half of the universe, and they can barely extend that kindness to their friend.
Yeah, it's I mean, my whole thing is like, I say this all the time, everyone in the Marvel universe, like the MCU, every one of them need therapy. They all need therapy. And like without any kind of like exception, I mean, heck, like the entirety of WandaVision could have been avoided if someone had just done a wellness check, maybe.
Oh,
Like
oh, yes.
it's like, you know, they have Tony's funeral, and
uh,
from what I can tell in WandaVision, she pretty much went straight from that to see Vision's body. And it's like, you know what? Maybe if someone went with her and just checked that she like, you know, because literally every like Vision dead, her brother dead. I mean, in Age of Ultron, we see her have a few kind of nice scenes with Steve. He's gone.
mm-hmm.
Like, does and she you know, she had a bit of a, you know, talking connection with Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's back off to his family. Like, and yeah, you know, his family's back after 5 years. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
He's dealing with his own things. But if someone could just check in on her.
Well, this is it. And again, like, even I find the Tony funeral scene really frustrating, because where's Vision's funeral scene? Where's Natasha's funeral scene? Like, why does this one guy? I understand why, because he's the man. He's the man who started this whole fucking thing. But like, it really annoys me that like they literally show the audience, this is who you're meant to care about most. These other characters, not so much, right? But then at the same time, then they use the character's trauma. So like what's her name? Scarlet Witch. What's her actual name?
Wanda.
We
Wanda.
literally just said it. Wanda. Like they go, oh well, okay, yeah. So we've written that she's purposefully not got any support system, so she can have this mental breakdown. And I'm like, but you could also just like written like some really good mental health like checks and well-being. And this is the thing when it comes to representation, is the reinforcement of it's this constant reinforcement that men aren't meant to feel things and women are crazy. And
Mm.
so when Thor and Rocket go to, as it like 2013 Asgard, and to get that whatever stone it is,
The
and
ether, I
the
think.
ether, which is always more like a mist, not like a physical thing, so you need to stop saying that. And yeah, so like the ether, and he sees his mom and he gets emotional because he's like, this is the day where she dies.
Yeah,
And
like
this is like a really big moment. And Rocket says to him, like, get it together. Get it
mm,
together. And like, again, what is that message to the audience? I've just literally like I found this quote here from Hemsworth about Fat Thor. He says, quote, he's making jokes about himself though, wasn't he? Hemsworth said. I love that version of Thor. There's a vulnerability to that character and to that version that I think we hadn't seen before. He was going through some hard times, and that's his physical expression of that. I think he embodied that. The first time I read the script, I loved the fact that he went, this is who I am, this is how I'm feeling, and this is what I'm doing. I think it's fantastic.
I
No,
mean,
I mean, I don't want to shit all over someone's like process, but he's completely wrong there. That's not what we see on the screen. Because
and
he isn't. I don't think Thor does make any jokes about himself.
no, not that I can really think. I mean, it's like I guess it's humorous when he's like yelling at the kid on Fortnite.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't say anything that he unless if we like the moments like if unless if oh word Sarah
Mm,
it's just like unless if he's seeing that we're meant to find humor in things like his little rambling kind of speech about the events of 4-2 basically like we're meant that's what we're meant to be finding funny kind of
mm-hmm.
thing and it's like I don't find that funny. I just actually find it a bit sad.
But
But
that's it.
but I mean, the bottom line is like, we're saying all these things about like, yeah, you could write in this, you write in that. The writers, they don't care about that. That's not their goal, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not their goal to show realistic, mature, and thoughtful representations of mental health.
Mm-hmm.
We're just kind of here to get to the big action scene
Yes.
and
Yeah.
have a few laughs along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's a really good jumping off point to talk about kind of the influence of Marvel and I guess the whole superhero genre on people on us as a society. You cannot get away from these superhero films. I feel like one gets comes out every month or at least every 2 months. They're everywhere. And I wanted to explore like the influence. Like this whole podcast is about representation of fat bodies, because how they're represented does impact how fat people are then treated in real life, and how non-fat people view fat people, right? Or like view fatness as this like morally wrong thing. And so this idea that these things happen in a vacuum is completely not true. These have genuine real life impacts.
Something that actually, like you saying that, just made me remind. So it's like because sometimes when I'm doing stuff, I'll have YouTube on the background.
Sure.
You'll do it. And I sometimes listen to gaming YouTuber Jesse Cox, him and a bunch of his friends. They do a thing called the Scary Game Squad. They're playing horror games. Da da da.
Love that. Yeah.
So and a couple of them are larger guys. And one of them, I believe, Alex Faciani, I think his name is. He said, "Oh yeah, the neighborhood kids call me Fat Four."
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah. Or another guy, Gerard, he got told, "You look like a young fat Santa,"
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But yeah, the Fat Thor is just like, yeah, like this is something that people pick up on.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like I mentioned this on the Shrek episode, but because I've got, you know, orange hair, I get in my comments Princess Fiona. You know what I'm saying? Like this is I'm not saying like I guess like this thing like you can't just stop all media. I'm not saying that, but
No.
media has to take a responsibility for what they're putting out into the universe. And the fact that they coin these phrases like and then they actually get used to belittle real people is very frustrating. So, let me get my notes. So I quickly Googled. So I was like, okay, like what is the Marvel impact on? I guess I'm going to focus more on the male beauty standard, but I do want to bring in the female beauty standard in a second. And this is only because Marvel is so male centric. I even like looked at a research paper of the division between female and male representation in the Marvel films. So this is from, let me read this. It's from a paper called Analyzing the Gender Representation of 34,476 comic book characters by Amanda Shendrook. So this is a quote there. Women are also rare. Only 26.7% of all DC and Marvel characters are female, and only 12% of them, only 12% of mainstream superhero comics have female protagonists. And then in a paper called Trends in Gender Portrayal in the Marvel Cinematic Universe Avengers series, a conventional content analysis from 2021, written by Haley Moralsand and Daniel Olivo. I'm guessing that's how I'm saying his name, sorry. In the first 4 Avenger films, so that's Assemble, Age of Ultron, Infinity War, and Endgame, there are 22 female to female conversations in those 4 Avengers films. Do you want to take a guess at how many male to male conversations there are in the first 4 Avengers films?
I mean, over 100? Like
344.
Dang, I was lowballing.
I know, you were. So there's 22 female to female in 4 films, and there's 344 from male to male. So
I mean, I'm trying to recall a single one of those female to female conversations right now.
You know, well, actually, for the listeners, I will be putting links to these papers I'm like citing, just so you can like, you know, I read them yourselves. They're really, really interesting. They talk about like who are the female characters in each one of those films, and they explain the different they're basically doing a Bechdel test on all the films. And but then like within that, like there's like, you know, 4 conversations in like one film, but then like 2 of those conversations center a man, so it doesn't actually pass the Bechdel test. So I took at the highest level just conversations, not even about subject matter. So in those 22 conversations, how many of them centered men? So that's why I'm going to focus on the male influence, because it is a male dominated franchise or universe. So when you Google Marvel body, for example, you will get given so many links to superhero diet, how Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, and Chris Pratt eat from Men's Journal, or Avengers workout, build a superhero physique in 6 weeks, or here's Simu Liu's Shang-Chi. Thank you. Simu Liu's oh my god. Simu Liu. I can't say that. That's such a tongue twister. Simu Liu Shang-Chi workout and diet plan. Whoa. Yeah, so like constantly, and oh my god, Sarah, the diets that they are suggesting people do, these are the most boring things you've ever read. Listen to this. Which one's this? So this is the Chris's diets.
Which Chris?
All of them. This is Pratt, Hemsworth, and Evans. So meal 1, 3 eggs, 1 cup of oatmeal, 1 serving fruit. Meal 2, 1 serving fruit. Meal 3, an 8-ounce chicken breast with 1 yam, which is a sweet potato, or 1 cup of rice. Oh no, wait, hold on. Yams and sweet potatoes are different here. I thought they were the same thing. What is a yam?
Huh. Maybe yam's a type of sweet potato?
What are yams?
No, yams and sweet potatoes are not the same. Okay.
I'm learning things. Okay. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Google. Someone's asked, what's the difference between a yam and a sweet potato? Yams are starchy and have a rough brown exterior. They can go up to be 45 feet long.
Huh.
Well, okay, right. This is not the podcast. We're not.
This is not the yam cast.
This is not the yam cast. Wait, so yeah, 1 yam, 1 cup of rice, or 1 sweet potato. Meal 4, 1 serving fruit. And I'm not even taking the piss. 12 almonds. They have literally written for your meal 4, 1 serving fruit, and 12 almonds. This is like another level of intense when it comes to like having diets.
This kind of reminds me of like the 1920s diet where people would just have grapefruit for every meal.
Oh my God. Yes.
Which I cannot think
100%.
of anything worse than just grapefruit for every meal.
Literally. Hold on, let me finish. Meal 5. You got to eat this
Oh
every
no.
day. 1 cup of mini carrots or 1 cup of cherry tomatoes. They've got to be mini. If they're not mini, then don't count.
What if
12.
it's just regular carrots, but you cut them really small?
No, it got to be mini, Sarah.
Yeah, no.
You got to have the mini ones.
Cooked or uncooked?
I think they're meant to be raw.
Okay.
12 almonds again, or you could treat yourself and get 1 tablespoon of almond butter. Meal 6 is 16-ounce salmon or sea bass, 1 vegetable, doesn't say which one, so dealer's choice, and 2 cups of salad. And then meal 7 is 1 serving fruit.
Yeah, I mean,
I find that staggering. Like when I read that, this is from Men's Journal, I just thought that is disordered eating. Because there's nothing in there about how you cook these things. There's nothing in it about seasoning.
Yeah, I was thinking that with the chicken, like seasoning,
yeah,
like little bit of lemon and herb, or just something.
And this is like the blurb just before. It says this is built for someone who goes to the gym at least twice a week, in brackets, preferably more, and wants to lose weight or take a step towards Chris Pratt shredded. The language.
The thing is that yes, that diet might have worked for one of the Chris's, one or all of the Chris's, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. Like diets are so individual, as are exercise plans, and I mean, this is why diet culture is so fucked, kind of thing, because what works for one person isn't going to work for everyone. What works for one body type isn't going to work for every body type. It's so individual, but they sell it as like this works for everyone. That people just get unrealistic expectations. They get discouraged. They get just they set themselves up for failure because they're not doing something that's good for them. They're just doing something that they're just told is generally will work, rather than something that will specifically work for them, their body, their health, their metabolism, their whatever.
So I think you're bouncing on the fact, which is like diet culture works. The diet industry works by telling you this is a one-size-fits-all solution, and that solution is to lose weight, right? Diet, like, it's interesting because in these diets, specifically for like the superhero bodies, it's losing weight and then also like gaining muscle. So it has this like interesting lens on it, which I don't know, because you don't often get that same kind of advertisement for female-centric diets. But ultimately, it's going. But if you can do this, you can do this. This is just what Chris Pratt does. This is what Chris Hemsworth does. So you can do this as well. Like, that you should be able to do this. In that thing, it says, someone who goes twice a week, in brackets, preferably more. It's already telling you should be going more, man. You want this body, you got to do it. You got to you got to eat your 12 almonds, nothing more, nothing less. And then there's been this real change as well in how the men are speaking about the pressure to look superhero rich. So Will Poulter, who is in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, he said that he wouldn't recommend anyone doing what I did to get ready for that job, end quote, stressing it would be unhealthy and unrealistic to do what he did if you do not have the financial backing of a studio paying for your meals and training. I think that's in the yes, that's from the Independent. So again, it's this idea of again, I actually really appreciate Will's like point of view here, which is like, I could only achieve this because it became my entire life. This was my
Yeah.
life. I was paid to do this. So if you, average Joe, is got like a full-time job, a family to look after, your social life, you can't also go to the gym for X amount of hours a day. You can't have the capacity to have 7 different meals a day. You might not even have the financial ability to do it, to sign up to a gym, to pay for all these meals, to pay for a personal trainer. So
Or bulk almonds.
bulk
Just
almonds,
a
or
bulk supply of almonds.
just get all the almonds, and then also the protein shakes that go into it, and you're just like, actually, like, this isn't attainable for you. But the way that these articles are written are like, oh no, this is all on you, man. We've told you how to do it, you just have to do it. If you can't do it, then that's on you. And going back to what you were saying, like, everybody is different. So this diet, okay, it might work for the Chris's, like you were saying, but it might not work for you. And if it doesn't work for you, that doesn't mean that you have failed. And again, diet culture, the diet industry is that failure has to be individualistic, because it works only if you fail, because it makes you feel bad for not having willpower, makes you feel bad for failing this diet, which, the Chris has managed to do. How come you can't do it? But then it goes, if that was too hard, here's this other diet for you to try. Or where we are now, here's this drug for you to try. Oh, does that not work? There's surgery. Like, there's always another option. The diet industry is so well adapted that if it can't get through to you and not make you feel like a piece of shit because you keep failing all these diets and you've spent X amount of, hundreds, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds going from, slimming clubs and Weight Watchers and gym memberships and replacement shakes and I don't know, Slim Fast, what other fucking like Diet Chef. If they have all lost, then they could go, well, there's that new drug that's just got approved. You could try that. All the celebrities are doing it. Does that not work for you? We could go to Turkey and get some surgery. Like, it is so extreme how the diet culture has moved on, because it's basically at every turn, it's just saying to you, it is not okay to be fat. You have to change yourself. You have to rectify it. And if you don't, then it's on you. And if it's on you, that means we can bully you for it. And if it's on you, it means that we can blame you for it. If it's on you, it means we can like chastise you for it. And if it's on you, it means we will not build this world to fit you, because we don't want to tell you it's okay to be your size. So that's why you can't fit on planes. That's why you can't fit in theaters. That's why you struggle to fit in booths in restaurants, because we're telling you at every turn it is not okay for you to be this size, so you will go pay to be on diets or be in surgery or fucking kill yourself. Sorry, I really will put a trigger warning at the beginning of the episode because I'm going really dark, but people die doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's the whole thing is just like, it's predatory, and but the thing is that it, in a sense, it works because people keep giving them their money to these things. And I think the whole thing with, the superhero body type and superheroes is it's a power fantasy.
Yes. Oh, such a good point. Yes.
And it is just, yeah, it's like saying, like, you could have this kind of strength, this kind of power, and that's linked, then these workout things and these diet things, they link it to the body, they link it to the physical. It's like, you can be like Thor. It's like, well, I don't know about you, but I can't summon lightning.
Yes, 100%. So it's like, you can have the power and be a god looking like a god, but you can't actually be a god. So we'll give you the next best thing, which is just to look like one.
Yeah, and it's like, and whilst we don't hear as in, the female side of it is have you seen the picture of from Endgame? It's like before and after effect shot of Brie Larson, and they actually kind of tuck her tummy.
What?
Have you not seen this? Okay, all right, I'm sending you this now.
Stop.
But it's just like a little bit, but it is noticeable. They do flatten her tummy digitally.
Well, it's interesting actually because Elizabeth Olsen said to Entertainment Today, Canada edition, that Marvel has never explicitly told her to get into shape. However, they let the individual actor decide how they want to express the character, but they will set you up with a trainer if that's what you want, but that's it. Which I find really interesting because that's different to what Will Poulter said, which is like, the studio have paid for all this. And I think like ultimately it's possible that Marvel have never outwardly gone, Lizzie, you don't need to do anything, but the pressure, like the societal pressure, and like if you're going to show me Brie Larson being digitally altered because she wasn't toned enough, then that pressure 100% exists. And again, when I was researching into this, the marketing machine use these actors' transformations into superhero ripped as part of the publicity. Right, so when Chris Pratt got cast as Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy, there was this real Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec.
Yeah, that was like everywhere. His like transformation, the
His
before and
transformation.
after,
Yes,
that like, oh yeah, the dad bod, but now he's got a superhero bod, and
exactly. That was a whole key
so
part.
much of that. It was honestly everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and then also not only that, so you got that. Obviously, I've just read the Simu Liu's article about how he got ripped. Again, if you go into YouTube, you can see like their workouts, right? Hemsworth has got his own exercise app. So he's built like an empire. He's built like an industry.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I do know that saying about like showing the training. Brie Larson did a lot of that.
Yes. That was going to be my next thing.
Coming up to Captain Marvel.
Yes.
Like she's doing like the thing with the tires and all that kind of thing.
She used the hashtag Fitspo, which is something that gets criticized because maybe not great, especially if you're someone who's recovering from an eating disorder to see. And so I think it's really interesting where like it is part of the machine to watch these people, these actors become superhuman. So this idea that like Elizabeth Olsen's like defending Marvel, I mean, you do you, hon. Like you've got your bag. If that means defending them, crack on. But whether or not they're being pressured to do it by the studio are relying on them to get fit to help with promoting their fucking films. So the pressure's got to be coming from somewhere. So we've spoken a lot about Marvel, and I wanted to bring it back to the early 2000s. Little film came out called X-Men.
Huge act up. I'm guessing this is going.
Yes. So I fucking love X-Men. I think it's great. I think X-Men X2 is great.
Oh, X2 is great.
X2 is great.
Anyway, I mean, although obviously important to say, Bryan Singer, absolute scumbag.
Really good point. Call out the scumbags. Yes, thank you very much for calling that out.
And I've loved X-Men, kind of like been aware of it my whole life. 90s cartoons, 2000 movies. I've read many a comic. Yeah, fuck Bryan Singer. He is a scumbag.
Scumbag. Thank you very much for bringing that out. Yeah,
but Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman, like
Hugh Jackman. So Hugh Jackman, for me, is like one of the probably bar Batman. I forget about Batman in the 90s because obviously I love Batman and Robin because I'm a 90s child and George Clooney is my Batman. I won't have a word said against it.
This is a bat nipple safe zone.
Oh my god, please bring the nipple, free the nipple, free the nipple,
free the bat nipple.
Alicia Silverstone as well as Batgirl literally has my whole heart. Like there are some real key moments of my childhood where I look back and I'm like, oh, that's where I became bi. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh well, it's fucking Batman and Robin. It's the Mummy. Like I'm very got some very specific tastes. But anyway, so X-Men, Hugh Jackman, not very well known Hugh Jackman. It's interesting because Logan was meant to be originally played by Dougray Scott. Andrew Gray Scott, who again isn't very much a well-known actor nowadays, but I'm Scottish, so I know apparently all Scottish actors. But he couldn't take the role on anymore because Mission Impossible 2 ran on too late.
Okay.
And so then they had to recast, and that's when they cast Hugh Jackman. Now, if you look at 2000 screenshots of, sorry, so let's start again. Screenshots of 2000's X-Men, Hugh Jackman is absolutely, muscular. He is fit. He is clear, he clearly beat you up. Like he's a fit guy. But if you compare his body then to his body in, like, say, 2017's Logan, it's worlds apart.
Oh, 100%. It's like, yeah, it's like, because I'm looking at it now. It's like you look at like him in the first X-Men film. It's like, yeah, that's, that is a muscular guy,
fit guy, absolutely
could absolutely beat you up. And
absolutely.
then you look at kind of like, I think I'm looking at from the Wolverine movie, and it's just kind of ridiculous. And you see like the veins and
yes, the pump.
It's just like, and I mean he's doing it again now for Deadpool 3. He's getting back in the shape.
Got you.
Yeah, so and you have to wonder, it's like the whole thing of like constantly putting your body through these things. It doesn't seem healthy to kind of keep putting your body through these very extreme transformations. And all right, he didn't have to do that so much for Logan, but kind of like part of the point of Logan is that he is an old, worn out Wolverine.
Yeah, but I get, but on that, it shows how unsustainable this body is. If it means, like, because again, I'm going to bring up another famous male action character to kind of reinforce our argument here. But this idea where they go, oh, when they've got to prepare for the role, they start this intense workout regime, which means that they are not doing it in the downtime, which means because it's not sustainable to keep doing it. And again, this is the thing. As an audience, we are looking at a snapshot in time. They only look like this for a certain amount of time, and then they don't. So really famously, recently, for Top Gun Maverick, they shot the beach scene, the volleyball scene. Is it volleyball? No, American football. I think volleyball was in the first film. Anyway,
yeah, volleyball's the first one.
I forgot which beach sport, okay? But they all look ripped, fit. They're meant to be like young fighter pilots, right? And they shot it, and then they all, relaxed because, like, oh, we don't have to have our tops off again. But something happened with the filming, and it wasn't filmed right. So Tom Cruise is like, right, we've got to do it again. And I can't remember what his name is. Not Miles Teller, the other one. The blonde guy.
I can tell. I haven't seen Top Gun Maverick, so I really couldn't. I
mean, don't worry, you're not missing out on much. But yeah, like he said, like they all then had to like go back into the gym straight away, like kind of do some fasting to get back into the ripped shape they needed to be for that beach scene. Which again, it just shows how completely unrealistic this is. Hugh Jackman has said that if he knows he's got a shirtless scene coming up, he will purposely dehydrate his body for that shot because it makes him look more muscular because his body is literally like shriveling up.
Again, like, that's just not healthy. And
I mean, it's like healthy.
Obviously, Hugh Jackman, very physically fit man. He's done Broadway. He's done.
Yes.
Hey, we're back to musicals.
No, I was going to bring up Les Mis because, again, famously, they all sang live on set of that filming. But because he was dehydrating himself, because he wanted to look ripped as a prisoner, apparently prisoners are ripped, he was singing for like 10 hours a day with no water, with complete dehydration, which is really risky for your vocal cords. For the sake of a shot, Sarah, he was putting his body through potential permanent damage, potentially damaging like a tool that he uses, that like he makes money from, in order to look good for a shot.
It is just kind of like it's like, at what point do we say, guys, maybe we should just chill out on guys, can we just chill?
And we just and that's the thing, like I really, really appreciate we're both women talking about this, but we're both incredibly passionate about body representation. And I'm getting the vibe off you, Sarah, but I'm really anti-diet culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just see these films as just massive bags of toxicity, and where so much of our eating disorder diet culture lens is on women, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be, I'm just saying it is. We do forget about how it impacts men as well. And I think the absolute saturation of these films and of these unobtainable bodies being fed to our men and boys cannot be good long term.
No, and also like you said about that Will Poulter thing,
Yes.
like, you know, absolute kudos for him for just being so
Yes.
transparent about it.
Yes.
And like, yeah, I have actually met him
Oh,
in
cool.
in a previous day job. He came into the cinema I worked. I served him a G&T, which to me I was like, I've been seeing you in films since you were like 10, and now I'm
Yeah.
serving you a G&T. Is that am I
Are,
allowed to do that?
are you not a child?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, you're a child. I shouldn't be giving you alcohol. But he is crazy tall.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I felt
Oh,
like a hobbit. Um,
okay.
little hobbit bartender.
That's you. We're bringing
Yeah.
another franchise into this. Let's bring them all in.
But yeah, no, I absolutely kudos him for just being transparent about that and
Yeah.
saying yeah, just saying I wouldn't recommend anyone do this.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, Kumail Nanjiani also spoke about it after his role in The Eternals. And so he spoke to the Independent again, saying that he's actually really uncomfortable with his body because he posted a thirst trap, as one likes to do, where he had, really been working out. And he says that he really wants to look like someone who could take on Thor or Captain America or any of those people. And this is him speaking to GQ magazine.
Hmm.
He wanted to so he was motivated by his own desire to portray a strong South Asian hero. He gained about 28 pounds, 12 kilograms of muscle. But unfortunately, Chloe Zhao, who was the director of the Eternals, was actually disappointed because she hired him for him, or cast him
Yeah.
for him, I should say, and she wanted like his like mix of humility and charisma. Basically, translation, she wanted a normal guy. She wanted your
Hmm.
run of the mill guy. But then what was interesting is into this article, Kamal talks about how he wanted to get access to other film roles. And he felt that having a toned, muscular, ripped body would give him access to that. So instead of, again, it's a very what's the word? I think it probably is fat phobic to a degree, but he wasn't seen as a heartthrob until he gained all that muscle. And it was like, I mean, the man's always been hot.
Yeah, he's a
Like,
he's a very good looking chap.
he is so good looking. I fucking love the film The Big Sick. I think it's so good. I think he's so good in it. And so like, I'm really
I mean,
happy.
look at that jawline. Like that is
The
chiseled as
jaw,
heck.
that's what I'm saying. Like, he looks great. He's got great hair. But it's unfortunate that Hollywood had made him, not that's not fair, not made him, but had encouraged him.
Encouraged him to feel like,
Yes. I was just gonna say, because made it makes it sound like it's all on his fault. And it's not at all. Like,
yeah,
it's the cult, it's the environment he's in has encouraged him to feel that he would only get these like more heartthrob roles if he actually was uh, stereotypically attractive by Western standards. And I find that really, really sad. And then he then told Vulture that this is quote, it's very easy to get obsessed with that number on the scale. It's a tough thing. It's deceiving. You become obsessed with it. I certainly have. And for me, it's not great to weigh myself every day. If I could change something, I would love to not have to think about that.
that to me, that just kind of that really kind like anyone who has had that kind of anxiety over weight
Yeah.
and that kind of fixation, that's just going to sound very familiar, or it's
Yeah.
and that's really sad, like genuinely quite sad that, you know,
Mhm.
like I wouldn't wish that on anyone, kind
Mhm.
of thing.
I totally agree. As someone who has experienced an eating disorder for most of my life, weight checking, I would weigh myself twice a day, morning and night, because just upset you become obsessed with these numbers. I would also measure myself once a day. I don't think I got to twice a day. I would also look in the mirror. So when I started working from home, because obviously height of COVID is when the height of my eating disorder happened, and I had a full length mirror to my right, and I would just stare at it all the time like a budgie and just grab at myself. And I didn't realize that was actually part of an eating disorder until I got officially diagnosed, and that was one of the questions. So, oh shit, yeah, do I do that?
I mean,
Uh,
I have bouts of being a mirror avoider
there you go. There you go.
personally,
Uh-huh.
just trying not to look at it kind of thing.
Yeah, that's it. And so hearing this incredibly successful male actor talk so openly and honestly about something I think a lot of people relate to, because God, eating disorders are so prevalent. I think again, if you're not got like a full blown one, you might have little flicks of it, you know.
Hmm.
It's so normalized. It's so normalized. I don't know why it's just popped into my head, but like if you remember like Special K, the Special K diet back in the day, we'd have to eat two bowls of cereal instead of like full blown meals, and then you'd have a
Hmm.
meal. The box the Special K came on was of a woman's hourglass shape and a measuring tape around it,
Yeah, I was
right?
gonna say measuring tape. Yeah.
Yeah. This is it's so normalized. And so I
And
really,
even
really
encouraged in some ways.
100% encouraged. There's I can't attribute this thought to someone in particular. I've just seen it on TikTok and socials, but I've heard one of the key moments of bonding for women, mothers and daughters or girlfriends or work colleagues is around diet and weight loss, because we're
Oh.
encouraged to make it like our full and first thought. It definitely was for me for a very long time. So I really appreciate Kamal's vulnerability, because that is one of the most vulnerable things I've ever read.
Mm.
You know, like an A-list star coming out and being like, yeah, you know what? This is not good for me. And the fact that this film has made him do that, and even the film wasn't even well received, like, oh, it's just like,
No, it's like I mean Eternals is its whole own thing, and it's like it's not great, but I
mhm,
think it had some potential, and that's
yeah,
not the fault of the Chloe Zhao or the
no,
cast.
mhm.
Like I'm like I when I was actually really excited that film because it has Ma Dong-seok, who most people in the West will probably know from Train to Busan.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Um, the daddy guy.
yeah,
Yeah, him being in
our
it,
dad.
like all of our dads. But yeah, no, I was really excited about him being in the film, and I believe in the film he's credited as Don Lee.
Right.
Like that's kind of like his Western um version of his name. But yeah, I was really excited to see him in the film, and you know, it's solid cast. Like it's kind of
Mhm,
a case of there's nothing wrong with Eternals,
mhm.
but it just didn't have, it was just missing something, I think.
Sure. I think that's a really fair, not, I guess, fair criticism. The last thing I wanted to talk about with the superheroes specifically was I found this quote from a Dr. Scott Griffiths, and he's a senior research fellow at the Melbourne School of Psychological Sciences. And his work explores eating disorders, muscle dysmorphia, and increasing prevalence of body dissatisfaction in men and boys. So it says the research says that portrayals of male bodies in media have become more lean and more muscular over time. He has found that repeated exposure to extremely masculine and muscular male portrayals in media can, over time, erode male sense of self-worth and confidence.
That yeah, that doesn't surprise me, basically.
No, it really doesn't. And again, it feels like for women, this has been happening forever. And that kind of idea is only, maybe this is unfair. And if this is unfair, please someone let me know. but it's only just happening for men and boys, like over the past 20 years, where like definitely throughout my life, throughout my mum's life, I can imagine throughout my grandmother's life, that reinforcement of we can only be this certain size and let's reinforce that through the media you're watching and the magazines you're reading has been happening for like, yeah, like a century.
I think it's maybe probably closer to say that it's become more prevalent for men.
Prevalent, sure.
I don't doubt that, it's kind of been there to some degree, but I think now, and particularly with the increase in superhero media, it's just becoming more widespread.
Yeah, that's fair.
Kind of thing. That like, not to say that men haven't dealt with this in the past. Just I do think that it's definitely become more highlighted and more widespread with superhero. I don't think superhero is causing it, but I think it's just pushing it to the forefront.
Yeah, it's like reinforcing,
Yeah,
maybe like screaming it rather than saying it.
yeah, reinforcing is a good word for it. Yeah.
So I also had a thought that was like, okay, like what other like male characters are out there which could be influencing our men and boys? I thought of James Bond. So I Googled
I feel like James Bond is almost like his whole other kind of kettle of fish.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't totally. I mean, like, absolutely from a behavior point of view, but I'm talking about like purely like physique.
Yeah.
So I Googled James Bond diets and again, inundated. And this is one from Man of Many, which came up a lot when I was looking for these specific kind of articles. So I'm going to read it to you because I find the language again is very quite scary to me. If I had like a boy or a young man or even like an older man reading this, I'd be really worried for them if they were taking this in and internalizing it. So, okay. It should come as a surprise to exactly no one that the James Bond diet involves decreasing body fat while increasing muscle. For 51-year-old Daniel Craig, that meant cutting down on the carbs and unhealthy fats and loading up on both natural and supplemental proteins. He also quits smoking every time he prepares for a new franchise installment, which again, I find that really interesting that like he picks it back up again afterwards. So it's like, again, it's like this short-term, short-lived thing for like a film, and then he goes back to like regular Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
Then it goes, but prepares for a new franchise installment and limits his alcohol intake to just 2 nights per week. Sure, he could go completely dry, but that would be somewhat out of sync with the part. Let's call it ongoing research for a character who famously prefers his martinis shaken, not stirred. Ready for another no-brainer? Craig eliminated all the junk food from his diet. Should you want to cut yourself in his mold, you should similarly throw out the Doritos, Snicker bars, cookies, donuts, or whatever else it is you binge on after coming home from the pub at 2 a.m. In their place, pick up the fruits, veggies, eggs, fish, chicken, and protein shakes. By the way, what are you doing out at the pub until 2 a.m? Are you trying to get into shape or not? We just knew. Yeah, I know. It's fucking awful, isn't it?
It's just so judgmental and kind of bullying. It's bullying.
It's bullying. Fantastic word.
Like,
We just knew you'd run with that whole 2 nights of drinking per week thing. For the sake of staying on task, let's assume that Craig is maybe a drink or two during his cheat nights. Consider doing the same, if not going completely dry as you whip yourself into a mean muscle machine. And then it goes into the diet, which is very similar to the one I read earlier. And I thought, again, what was really, really interesting about this particular article is at the bottom, they had a general FAQ on the diet. And it says something like, how many meals a day does Daniel Craig eat? And it was like 7. The second question, Sarah, was, what is the net worth of Daniel Craig? And it said $170 million, which I don't think is true. But also
how is that relevant?
Well, how is it relevant? For me,
I guess it's feeding into the fantasy.
It's feelings fancy. It's equating physical health with success, and
Yeah.
success means money. So it is literally saying, well, if you do this, man, who knows how much money you'll be worth soon.
Ugh. Yeah, no, the language of that really is just very, I say again, bullying and shaming, and that's just not nice, not nice at all.
I couldn't believe it. It's funny because reading the superhero ones, I mean, I only read a handful, so it's very possible the language does change. There is one where specifically nasty language like this, but this is the James Bond one. I was like, this is really horrible to read, and I just like, you're not good enough. You're going to the pub until 2 a.m. You're not good enough. You don't deserve success because you can't commit to the James Bond Daniel Craig diet.
I think, and your thing about deserving really kind of smarts me, because to jump back to Fat Thor for a
Yes,
moment,
yes, please do.
because so it's like, because I have very complicated feelings about Fat Thor in general,
Hmm.
and a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, the fact that he is just a constant butt of the jokes,
Hmm.
the fact that the sheer lack of concern from anyone for his well-being, but at the end of the day, he is still worthy. He
Yes.
calls Mjolnir.
Hmm.
He is still worthy. He is a
Yes.
mess. He is full of self-loathing. He is just the lowest point, but he is still fucking worthy.
Hmm.
And that to
Hmm.
me is a very powerful thing.
Yes.
Like, and that is kind of like a case of, yes, you can be at your lowest, but you are still worthy. You are still worth something. You are still capable and able to do whatever, to do the right thing, to do what you want and need to do in life. You are worthy,
Hmm.
even if you are a mess.
Hmm.
And I think it's very, and if anything, it's kind of reinforced the fact that when he goes into the big final battle, he doesn't magically slim down. He is
Yes.
still big Thor
Hmm.
in that battle.
Hmm.
With kind of like a cool braided beard and things. I almost kind of wish
Yes.
he'd kept that, because I thought that was
Yeah.
cool. But then at the same time, even though we have this amazing moment, that's then undercut by his mum saying to him, "Eat a salad." So
Oh.
again, it's just very, I'm in very love-hate relationship with Fat Thor. Um, but that is kind of one of those things that I think larger people, like, sometimes we just need to be told, you are worthy. We are worthy.
Yes.
And we are worthy, we are deserving,
Hmm. Hmm.
and all the shit that we go through physically and mentally does not change that.
Hmm.
We are worthy.
Hmm. I 100% agree, and I 100% echo what you're saying. I think it is a very powerful moment where, like, we are owed and deserve respect, and we're allowed to exist on this planet, and we're allowed to live our lives how we see fit. And I think that's, again, that is Thor's realization as well, right? That he is allowed to continue being the god of thunder. He is allowed to still be an avenger. He is still worthy of holding Mjolnir. He is still a worthy defender of this universe. His body does not change that. His body has nothing to do with that. And not even that, his mental health status has nothing to do with that,
Yep. Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, he is clearly depressed, dealing with a lot of grief and trauma, but it still means he's worthy of being a hero, a god, which is so amazing as a fat person watching, like, yes, I'm still worthy, I'm still allowed to live my life, I'm still allowed to defend myself as well as others, I'm allowed to come on this podcast and say these things because we're allowed to have these feelings, incredibly complex feelings, but this very widespread and disgusting toxicity. We're allowed to say this, we're worthy of it. But then, yeah, then they undercut it. Literally,
Because
Rhodey. Go on, sorry.
sorry, no, it's just because that is just the thing with Marvel is like you have the heartfelt moment and then you just go, okay, we can't have too many feelings. We need to have a joke in
Mm,
there.
yeah. Well, this is it. So go have a salad. Rhodey says, well, Thor says, do you know what's coursing through my veins right now? And Rhodey goes, Cheese Whiz? Are you kidding me?
I was like, really, Rhodey? Really?
Really, Rhodey? Rhodey, fuck off. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, this is not okay.
So,
And that's
do we need to talk about some of your issues, Rhodey? Like,
I mean, I just don't understand. Like, again, I don't understand from a writing perspective.
I mean, also even Rhodey, kind of like him and Nebula have a bit of a talk
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she is
Yes.
mostly been replaced by artificial things.
Uh-huh.
He has essentially a kind of walking brace to help
He
him walk
does.
after, but then they undercut it with calling Peter Quill an idiot. It's just
Yeah.
like okay, oh, we're having a very genuine moment, and that's actually a really kind of like interesting kind of perspective on these characters. Quick, we need a joke.
Mm.
It's for heaven forbid we have some emotional sincerity.
Yeah, yeah. But then I think it's really interesting because at the same time, they want to deal with these incredibly complex, nuanced situations. Look at WandaVision. But they don't want actually address it. They just want to like cheek to it, be like, oh, look at this trauma over here. Oh, look at this positive fat representation that we might be talking to a lot of our audience with by saying that Thor is still worthy of being a superhero, even if he's gained weight, even if he's like turned to alcohol, even if he's like not in a good place mentally, he's still worthy.
Mm.
Oh, but let's undercut all that because we can't have them, like, we can't ponder on this. We can't, I don't know whether it's a bit of like, oh, well, if we think about this too deeply, we have to then also confront the fact that we are also the instigators of this. You know what I mean? Like they're part of the
Yeah.
reason why we don't explore this in real life because the representation isn't there to explore it.
I mean, it's like, I mean, in the case of something like WandaVision, that was a mini series that could
Mm-hmm.
focus on it,
Mm-hmm.
whereas in
Yeah.
a like 2.5 hour movie,
Mm-hmm.
like you have to get everything in. It's like, oh, we need like there's so much to get into that film
Mm.
that oh, okay, yeah, 3 hour movie in
Oh,
that case.
yeah, 3 hour movie.
As you are intimately familiar with
As I
from
know, my God.
um
But
because
I
yeah,
don't,
because you were
I,
like Hulk snaps and there's still an hour left.
it's still an hour left. I actually have some questions about that coming up as well. When we circle back. So what was I saying? Yeah, so I guess like the point is like if say for example if Thor's mom didn't say have a salad or that joke about the cheese whiz never happened, are we saying that like we're missing something? Like what does this actually add? Like it doesn't add anything. It actively takes away.
I mean,
And
what if like instead like the last, like when you think about it, that's the
yes,
last thing she
yes,
says to him.
yes,
That's
it
the last thing he
is.
will ever, and it is, what if instead it would be like I love you,
I love you. I'm so
or
proud of you.
I'm so proud of you.
Yes.
Like even like the very cliched I will always be with you.
I'm not gonna take it. I would take it a heartbeat over that. That's
Like
your son.
that
He's
is the
clearly
last thing
struggling.
he's ever gonna, it's just like, ah, yes, I remember the last thing my mother ever said to me: eat a salad.
Oh God, it's foul.
But
I
they're not thinking about that because it's
I
not about
know.
that. It's about the entertainment. It's
I
about,
know.
and it's just like I can, imagine someone sitting here being like, "Oh, you're overthinking it." It's like,
No, we're
well,
not.
yeah, but it's just like, well, okay, even if you say we're overthinking it, like, we okay, so that just means we care.
I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, if we're over, this is what the film has given us. It's not like we're deeply analyzing it. This is literally the line from the film. What are you taking from it? And I said this recently. If you are listening to this going like, oh my God, like you're reading into this far too deeply, I would love you to have the self-awareness to look at your own privilege and realize that maybe it doesn't impact you in the same way it impacts us because you don't have the same level of attachment or disordered thinking when it comes to your own relationship with your body or weight or food or diet culture. And oh my God, I'm so jealous of you because what a world that must be to live in. It is not, unfortunately, a lot of people's worlds. And films like this know that. This is not new information. Like, you know what I mean? Like these writers, these producers, these directors will know that a lot of people have issues with food or weight or, you know, I don't know, being bullied because of their body size. They know that. This is not new information, and yet they still commit to the bit in a way that's harmful.
Because it's a quick and easy laugh, and
Quick
then
and
we
easy
can
laugh.
move on to the next scene.
Yeah. Okay, where are my notes? Where are my notes? Okay. Da, da, da. Yes. Okay. So, do you have any thoughts? I have now seen your image of Brie Larson come through about how they have digitally altered her body to make her look more slender. So, on that, do you have any further notes or opinions on how the superhero inundation in our pop culture has influenced the beauty standard for women?
Well, I mean, the thing is like a lot of, and this kind of also goes to comics, because in comic artwork you get some very ridiculous body proportions and
Yes.
poses as well, poses where um you can see both the butt and the boobs at the same time.
Yes, the spine is all wrong.
Like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, these poor women.
Oh, no.
And whilst, you know, you get men who have like biceps as big as their torso, you have women who have like toothpick legs.
Mm.
And there's even kind of cases, one particular artist was known for tracing from porn.
Oh, hello.
Yes, so he would, in his comic art, he would trace from porn.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I mean he would even kind of like repeat artwork between pages. Like he was quite infamous for his um basically just not even trying to hide it. And
Mm.
he would use like the same face for different characters. So you've got like it, yeah, yeah, that's it. His name's Greg Land. And yeah, he was particularly known for his tracing. And
Mhm.
if you look at some of his artwork, it's a lot of open mouths. Kind of like just people posing like
Oh God, I really don't like this.
yeah. And I mean, you know, okay, if we start talking about female bodies in comic books, we will be here all week.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I mean, my thing is always kind of like costumes more than anything else. Like you
Mm.
see some people like particularly the character of Psylocke in Marvel. Like
Yes.
sometimes her outfit, I'm just like, girl, that can't be comfortable. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, really, that is what you want to wear when you're fighting? Like,
Mm.
geez, that's gonna chafe. Um,
Yeah.
but and I mean, even like recently we mentioned earlier across the Spider-Verse, we did
Yes.
see a lot of background spider people of very different body types and also
Yes.
disabilities. There is one particular
Yes.
one, Sun Spider, who we see with crutches.
Ah, honestly, I really, really, really enjoyed Across the Spider-Verse,
Oh
but
yeah, no, I really like it, but I mean, my only thing is like a few times we do see like these larger spider women, but there's in like the bodysuit kind of thing, and it's
uh-huh.
not the most flattering, I would say,
Well,
kind of
I mean,
costume possible.
I don't necessarily agree with that
Okay,
because I actually quite like how it's the same. I really like that. Like, it's not about flattering or looking good. It's like that's just what Spider-Man wears, and they are a spider person, and they're going to wear it. I mean, yeah, okay, they could,
okay, no, that is fair.
yeah, but what I would say on that, like I was, oh my God, so excited when I saw, like I could see the background, all these different like plus size and different sizes and different heights and different, and yeah, like different abilities. And I was just like, oh my God, this is awesome. And then I was really struck with, but they're not the main characters. They're the background. And in some ways, I'm like, oh, I don't want to bite the hand that feeds me. But I'm like, it's almost like it's like a tease. This is what you could have had if we focus on this particular spider person, but we're not going to give you that. We're just going to show you in the background. And it's one of those things where, like, I think on the whole, it's a really positive, but I was a little bit disappointed at the same time.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like a case of you want to be like, what's their story?
Yes,
Like,
100%.
I'm curious. It's just like, yeah, we've got this like plus size Spider Woman. I'm assuming she's just called Spider Woman, but you know,
I guess,
they're various
yeah,
code names.
yeah,
But like, yeah, what's her story? Like, what is it like being a plus size spider person? You know, it's like how do people kind of react to that differently than they might say a more conventionally bodied Spider Woman?
exactly. Like, compare that to like Spider-Gwen, for example. And I just think like, oh, I don't know, I got really, really excited and then yeah, disappointed. I'm like, oh well, I would love to know the nuances of that. And again, that would be a really interesting point of conversation, which is like, what is it like to be a plus size superhero? Like, there's, we've had Fat Thor, yes, but like, I don't know, like an actually sincere look at like how do people treat them compared to their straight sized colleagues,
I mean, this is something that kind of like in prep for this, I was looking up and I'm looking up, all right, I'm looking up plus size superheroes,
Mm-hmm.
plus size comic book characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, on the guy front, I'm
Mm-hmm.
mostly getting villains. I'm I'm getting the
Like Kingpin,
penguin.
Penguin.
I'm getting Kingpin.
Yeah.
Also the Blob,
The
the X-Men character.
Blob.
Yep.
Oh, and then there's
Um
you could well, I guess you could argue maybe Clayface as well from Batman because he kind of like anamorphosizes into like this like big blobby thing.
yeah, no, absolutely. And sort of like but when it came to females, there's like two particular ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um one of which I think are definitely different ends of the spectrum.
Mm.
So one is her name is Big Bertha.
Okay.
That is her superhero name.
Big Bertha.
Big Bertha.
Oh,
She's a
okay.
mutant. This is a Marvel
Okay.
character.
Yeah.
Um, she is a mutant
Mhm.
and she has the ability to control her body mass.
Okay.
Um, she can basically add hundreds of pounds to super bulk up herself, which gives her increased strength and durability.
Okay.
You know, but in order to go back to her regular body size, she has to vomit. She vomits up the excess fat, basically, to expel the excess mass. And also, in her civilian identity, she's a supermodel. So,
Oh my okay. So spot just a bit of background was Sarah did already warn me she was going to bring this up
yes,
last night on the pod. So I already knew that. I did not know about the supermodel part.
yes.
Who wrote this one? Who created this person? We need to mass
I'm looking this
email.
up. I mean, let's not do that. Let's not. Don't want to like influence an online hate campaign. But
I mean,
she was created. She was first appeared in West Coast Avengers in 1989.
okay.
Her name is Ashley Crawford, although she did later change her name to have Bertha be her first name.
Okay.
And she has also been a plus size model. So
Okay.
she's kind of lived her life as a plus size person as well as a skinny person. It's yeah, but I think the factor of having her specifically be a model and having an element of her power set involve throwing up, that's just kind of fucked, really.
I, I'm I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. There's so much wrong with that, and it truly is so upsetting to hear that someone first of all created that, committed it to a comic made this like stories about her, and someone signed off on it, thinking, "Oh yeah, that's totally fine." And
And
also,
there's also been cases in the comic where Deadpool has been attracted to her, but only when she's fat.
oh
So
great, so a bit of a fetish there.
yeah, basically.
Great. Great, because that's all. That's again, like that's the other thing with like when it comes to like fat sexuality, is that apparently people only find you attractive if you're fat because they have a fetish for it. They can't just like you or find you beautiful. Because of course you can't just find a fat person beautiful, because who would? So it has to be a fetish, and it's just like that's nasty. That is so nasty. Also, just on that, because like I've heard the phrase Big Bertha used for tends to be like inanimate objects, if I'm honest. Like, oh, here comes big, Big Bertha, like as in like, I don't know. I think if I just Googled it quickly, it was like a golf club, for example.
Really?
It comes from the nickname comes from a German siege howitzer, which is this big fuck off gun. As you can tell, I know
Huh.
everything about weapons from the First World War, and they nicknamed it Big Bertha. So that is where the name comes from. That's where it starts. And then they've named this comic book character. Yeah, yeah. So it's a driver from Callaway Golf. It's a Big Bertha driver. Oh my God. That is insane. Like, oh, here we go, comic book. I just wanted to see what she looked like.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Wisconsin's most famous supermodel.
But yeah, it's kind of like a case of kind of like Felicity. It's essentially kind of like a sleeveless, legless kind of yellow bodysuit is what she
Mm,
wears.
yeah, to really show her flash.
Mm.
Okay, well, this has disappointed me.
So yeah, so there's that. But
Yeah.
then you also have um character. This is a Valiant Comics. This isn't Marvel. This isn't DC. Valiant Comics is a character called Faith Herbert,
Mm-hmm.
or her code name is Zephyr.
Mm-hmm.
She is quite possibly the most prominent plus size superhero, I would
Okay.
say. And she's just a very happy, positive person. Like she's plus size. Her powers are flight and telekinesis. But like she just is her size, and her adventure, she's a very geeky character.
Love.
She loves comic books. She loves, I mean, her alias that she goes by is Summer Smith.
Mm-hmm.
So Summer from like Buffy Summers or Scott
Mm.
Summers, and then
Mm.
Smith, like the alias that the Doctor uses. Even one of
Ah,
her story arcs is even at a comic convention, which
cute.
she goes to. She actually goes in a costume that's basically like a steampunk version of her regular costume,
I love.
which is so cute. And her costume is like it's kind of like it's kind of like a long coat.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's white with kind of like a blue trim, like Zephyr, air, like very much kind of like keeping to that theme. But one thing I just love about her is that in a lot of the cover art of her is that she's smiling. She's just got the
No.
biggest, happiest smile on her face. She's has kind of like a confidence in her. She's happy who she is. And uh, you know, uh being a geek, she's a little bit of a daydreamer. And generally she doesn't imagine herself like super skinny. Like if she has like a little bit of an imagine, it's like, oh, I'm gonna meet this famous actor and we're gonna get married kind of
Mm,
thing. She's still got a plus size body. Like
brilliant.
she doesn't, or that there's one where she imagines herself kind of like getting an award. She is still very much a plus size person. She doesn't, I haven't read all of her comics,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe she does have some times where she is like feeling very insecure about her body and wishes she wasn't the size that she was. But kind of from my reading and experience of her, like she is just this positive. She loves having superpowers. She loves
Mm,
helping people,
mm-hmm.
and she is confident in herself. Like I'm seeing another picture of her where she's trying on a dress and she's like, I look hot. Yes, girl.
I love that.
and she's had she's had love interests, and she just has regular superhero stories. She's just also plus size.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the thing. It's just like she is at the core of it. She is no different from any other kind of superhero.
Mm-hmm.
She just also happens to be plus size.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I really like about her.
Yeah. I'm just happy there's at least one. Thank you for sharing that, and make sure we'll put that in the Instagram post as well, so people can see what we're talking about. And so, if anyone is interested, reading her adventures, actual positive plus size representation, amazing. Okay. So going back to my notes, we talked about that. That's cool. Right. So I just want to bring it back to Endgame for a second because I just have some questions. Hulk snaps the thing. What is there? What with the Infinity Stones?
Yeah.
Do they just do what you want them to do, or do they? Because when Hulk snaps, obviously it brings them back, so he's reversing. But then when Iron Man snaps, what is he doing there? I don't understand.
I think he just did that to kind of wipe out Thanos and his forces.
So he's like, it's like, what do you want? I will do it.
Yeah, that's the effect, like when you collect all the Infinity Stones.
Okay.
Because each Infinity Stone has like a particular thing. So like we were talking earlier about the ether, that is the reality stone.
Yeah.
So there is reality, time, power, soul, mind, and space.
Okay.
So I mean the time stone, like that's the one that Doctor Strange has, and that's the one that he uses in the first Doctor Strange movie for a lot of wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
Exactly.
And the Mind Stone, that's the one that Loki uses in the first Avengers movie to take over Hawkeye and Selvig, and that's also the one that powers Vision.
Yes.
So
okay.
Yeah. So they do have their own individual functions, and the Power Stone that was in Guardians of the Galaxy, like that was just used to wipe out a lot of people.
Right.
So they have their individual things, but when you gather them all together, that is when you can do the mega shit.
Okay. Cool. Now I know that. How does everyone who was in the snap get to the final battle?
That's a fair question. I mean, I would say kind of like maybe like as soon as they were back, they were like, "Oh crud, we're back. Something's probably going on." And I think, I mean, it's kind of implied that Doctor Strange used the thing, portally things.
You see Benedict Wong is also there doing a bit of that.
Oh, you can't go wrong if you've got the Wong. I always say that about Benedict Wong. Love him. It's just like he turns up in something, he's consistently great.
You're gonna be good. You're in safe hands.
You can't go wrong if you've got the Wong.
Plus size guy as well.
A bigger guy and
bigger guy. Yes, good representation. Thank you, Benny.
Yeah, it's just I love that guy. It's just like it's just one of those actors, like he turns up and I'm like, oh yay, cool, yay. But yeah, so and I imagine kind of like they teleported over to Wakanda, and Black Panther's like, and they're like, guys, I think something's happening. Do you want a lift?
Sure. Okay, great. I'll take it. I'll take it. Okay, but why does like Valkyrie and Pepper just arrive? Because they were never in the snap.
Yeah, I guess kind of like I mean, that is a fair question. I guess again, like when he's on his multi-dimensional taxi service, probably Doctor Strange kind of popped, but it's like, okay, have we got everyone? Can anyone think of anyone else? And maybe someone says, oh hey, there's that Valkyrie chick that Thor hangs out with. Okay, we'll go get her.
Yeah.
Pepper Potts, like Tony Stark's what? Okay, sure, let's go get her.
Yeah. Because it's the same with oh God, what's her name? Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh yeah.
She doesn't know these people.
No, it's like a case of where they would have rematerialized, they would have been just like randomly on a roof in, I want to say San Francisco.
Yeah, sure.
So it's like, yeah, did somebody, is she in a directory somewhere? Like superhero
Yeah.
directory?
Superhero directory.
Like, yeah, Doctor Strange's like, quick, let me just like get out my file of facts and
Yeah. Let me just get out my my BlackBerry and see who's in
oh no,
this.
what's it called? A Rolodex, that's what I was trying to think
Oh,
of.
a Rolodex. Oh, I love a
Yeah,
Rolodex. Go on. Yeah. So he's
really
like,
go
okay,
vintage.
I've not even met these people, but I know of them.
I mean, really, I think in those cases you just kind of have to accept rule of cool.
Yeah. And I wonder if he's like colored them like, okay, these are heroes and these are villains in my little Rolodex.
I mean, also like Valkyrie has her flying horse in that.
Yes.
Hasn't shown up anywhere else.
Doesn't matter. This is the thing. Apparently, none of this matters, Sarah, because they threw everything at the wall.
Fun fact though, that flying horse in the comics is named Aragorn.
Hey, Aragorn. Oh, that's nice. That's a good bit of trivia. Thank you very much for that.
Aragorn
Okay.
the flying horse.
Aragorn the flying horse. So then we have the big fight. It's all good. It's all gravy. Tony Stark dies. Okay. So I did message you because I asked, like, so half of people, oh no, half of all living things,
All
life was wiped out.
Yeah.
But like, and Pepper does allude to this where like she says like we were lucky because they got to keep each other, and obviously some people weren't lucky. But in this universe, this means, right, that Peter Parker, Genki, Mary Jane all went in the snap and then all rejoin high school at the same time.
Yeah. They're just basically for convenience sake.
Right? When I realized that when they get back to school, I was like, so like all of his friends and I guess like antagonists went. Like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, all of Peter Parker's significant classmates, like gang, like yeah, all his friends and Mary J, like MJ even, and Flash Thompson and
Flash, yeah.
The girl this friend gets with, I want to say Liz,
Right.
Liz. No, Betty. Oh, this is gonna bug me now.
Gotta Google.
But anyway, so basically just like, yeah, all significant characters. Betty Ross is Hulk's guy. Sorry, this is
oh yeah
me. Oh geez. But yeah, so all of the significant characters, they got snapped just because that makes the next movie easier.
Yeah, right. It does. I understand that. I was just like, convenient.
Yeah, Deus Ex snap.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then yeah, I had a comment at the end, which is like, where's Nat's funeral?
Yeah, no, and that is something that like a few people have said in I think kind of online, and I think that's absolutely fair. It is just like, yeah, you know, she sacrificed herself just as much as as anyone else.
Yeah.
So yeah, why doesn't she get the same level?
Her funeral. Also, who was the guy next to Kobe Smulders in the funeral scene?
It's just the younger guy.
No. I knew the younger guys from Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
No, behind him, there's like this older white guy. And I was like, who are you?
I mean, I've really got to kind of like see this because I'm not sure. Okay, so the character I was trying to think of, her name is Betty Brant.
Sure, Betty Brant.
Because Ned, because that's his name, like Peter Parker's friend in MCU, because they were kind of dating in Far From Home.
So Genki isn't called Genki in the MCU, it's called Ned.
Yeah, because it's the same kind of equivalent character as Genki in the comics.
Right. Oh, okay. Oh, well, fuck me. I got the wrong character. Let me have a look. So these are the people.
I think that's so the dude next to Maria Hill, I think that's meant to be Ross. Um
Ross.
General Ross, the father of Betty Ross, Hulk antagonist. He shows up in Civil War
Oh,
and
does he?
is like he's basically the because of the passing of the actor, he's going to be played by Harrison Ford in the new Captain America film.
Oh, it's William Hart.
William Hurt, yeah.
Oh, okay. Fully could not clock him. I was like, who are you?
I'm pretty sure that's who it is anyway.
No, you're right. I just quickly Googled it. It literally has a list of who's at the funeral, and he was one of them. So
Also,
there's
also,
one.
also looking at this scene, like Carol Danvers, she is wearing like a very elegant suit there, like 10 out of 10 for.
Love. No, really, really like her suit. I like how she's on her own. Like, again, it's one of those things where, like, yeah, she's just like, I mean, I guess I'm involved, but like, I've got other shit to do.
Also, it's just like, I mean, I met you, I respect you, but I didn't really know you.
I didn't know you.
So...
Yeah, totally.
But I do love that the kid from Iron Man 3 is there. I think
That's a
really
really good
cute.
pull. Yeah, I think that's a really good pull. It's a really good little like Easter egg. Yeah.
Also, just like when you see the Guardians, kind of like to make sure they're all in a similar height, Rocket standing on a tree stump.
Oh, bless.
It's just like, okay, this is our spot because I can stand on the tree stump.
This is where we must stand. We got to get there first, so no one else takes our spot. So, Sarah, I really appreciate us like going into this. I mean, I know it's not been a normal episode for our listeners, but I hope it's still been a really interesting conversation. And I really wanted to end with something fun and stupid, and maybe
Okay.
actually not in any way. I was like, is this hard? I don't know. I want to do a quiz.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you a name, and I need you to tell me I'm either gonna give you their superhero name or their alias.
Okay.
And you need to tell me the other one, if it's like their alias or their superhero name. And
Okay,
then
so if you say Peter Parker, I say Spider-Man. If you say
Exactly.
Spider-Man, I say Peter Parker.
You got it. And then also the actor that plays them.
Oh man.
So there are 2 potential points per one. Okay. Right. We're gonna start off. Steve Rogers.
Captain America, played by Chris Evans.
Yes. Thor.
Thor. Although, if you really want to go into a deep cut, his alias in the comics was Dr. Donald Blake.
Oh, fuck me. Yes, perfect.
And that would be Chris Hemsworth.
That is Chris. Okay.
Haha! You tried to trick me.
I did try to trick you, and I lost in my own game. Hawkeye.
That would be Clint Barton, played by Jeremy Renner.
Yeah. Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, that would be Carol Danvers, played by Brie Larson.
Oh, we're doing so well. Okay. Phoenix.
Phoenix, that would be Jean Grey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've either got Frank Jansen or you've got Sophie Turner.
Perfect. Yes. I was like, oh, are you going to get both of them? Okay. Kamala Khan.
Kamala Khan would be Ms. Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
The actress name escapes me. It's Iman something.
Mm-hmm. Don't you Google. Don't you Google.
I wouldn't dare. Yeah, I can't remember her last name.
It's Iman Vellani.
Iman Vellani, soon to be seen in The Marvels in cinemas.
Yes, we are not sponsored. I'll give you.
I think after some of the things we've said, like I don't think Marvel would be sponsoring us anytime
I
soon.
don't think I'm going to get invited to any premieres, and you know what? I'm cool with that. Okay, Gwen Stacy.
Gwen Stacy. Well, Spider-Woman, but she has also gone by the name Ghost Spider in the comics, and she is voiced by Haley Steinfeld.
Mm-hmm. And then who else also plays Gwen Stacy?
Also played Gwen Stacy would be Bryce Dallas Howard, and of course Emma Stone.
Emma Stone, rest in peace. Oh my god, that scene ruined me.
Oh my god! And then the callback to it in No Way Home with MJ, that just broke my. And also someone else who really needs therapy, Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man. Please, someone help that poor boy.
Help that man.
just like, please, can someone just talk to him, because I'm really worried about him.
Scott Lang.
Scott Lang, that would be Ant-Man, played by Adam Scott.
No,
Damn it, no, it's Tits.
Wrong Parks and Rec character.
Wrong Parks and Rec character. Oh my god, Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd. I mean, Adam Scott would be
Adam
a fine
Scott
Ant-Man.
come into my brain.
He would be a fine Ant-Man.
I don't know why Adam. I think it's because I said Scott Lang, and then
that's it.
No, the eternally youthful Paul Rudd.
The eternally youthful vampire. Everyone's favorite vampire. It is Paul Rudd. Okay. Wade Wilson.
That would be Deadpool.
Yeah.
Played by Ryan Reynolds.
The one and only.
And physically played, I believe, in X-Men Origins Wolverine by Scott Adkins. Yes, I do believe. And he was in Doctor Strange as well, as one of the henchmen.
This man gets about.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm giving you extra answers here.
You are giving me extra answers, and my quiz didn't prepare for these extra answers. Don't know who these people are. Okay, one more.
All right.
Thing.
Okay, so Thing, that would be Ben Grimm.
Yeah.
Of the Fantastic Four. He has been played by Jamie Bell, which I must say, when that came out, it was an interesting choice. And I want to say, I'm probably going to mispronounce his name. I want to say Michael Chiklis.
It is Michael Chiklis.
Hey!
Oh my god, we were so close to a perfect score. Just Marvel caught us out. So out of a possible of 20, you've got 19 and a half. Oh, well done, Sarah.
I'll tell you what, I'll take that. I
think it's a very good showing. Very good showing. Well, I would be so interested to find out if the listeners found that really difficult or really easy. Because I don't know. I think I would have done okay, but maybe not got all of them. Okay. Sarah, is there anything else you wanted to cover as part of this conversation?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think we have covered a lot of ground.
We've talked a lot.
And but no, I definitely think we've covered everything. And at the end of the day, I think the thing about superheroes in general is that I think one of the reasons why we gravitate towards them is kind of the adventure, is the power fantasy, but it's also, I think the thing about superheroes is that they show us the best that we can be.
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of like, I think the ultimate good that superheroes put out into the world. Even with all the muddles of stuff of studios and comic book writers and tracing porn and and exercise regimes. Like, at the end of the day, superheroes show us like that we can be strong and we can be better and we can do good.
Thank you. That was very well put. A very nice way of rounding up, because you're right. I think we have looked at the negative side of this genre. And obviously it's successful for a reason. It's successful because people like it, people enjoy it, people relate to it, and we can and shouldn't take that away from them. So at the end of every Fats and Film episode, we rate the film we've been talking about out of a score of ourselves, out of 5 ourselves, on how well we believe they represent fat bodies and other body diversities. Now, I know we've had a weird episode, but fuck it, let's keep doing it. Sarah, out of potential 5 Sarahs, what would you give Avengers Endgame for fat representation?
Ooh. See, this is tricky because, like I said, I have this very love-hate relationship with Fat Thor, and so I will have to come right down in the middle and give it a 2.5.
2.5 Sarahs for Sarah. I'm not going to be as kind. I am going to give it a 0.5. I think 0.5 Hannah's. I really like the I am worthy scene, and that for me is absolutely the standout moment, but I really don't like how it's undercut and how he is just treated in general.
No, that is absolutely fair. I mean, for me, the I am worthy thing gets it the two stars. No, 100%. Kind of thing. Like that, absolutely. For me, that is enough to get it.
Yeah.
that score. But no, I totally understand that.
No, no, and I understand your score as well. Like
Look
that's
at
what,
us being reasonable on the internet. Is
my
that
God.
loud?
No, well, I'm gonna get struck down. Like, no, no, no. That's the thing. Like, that's why we score it at the end out of ourselves,
Mm.
because this is our score. This is what we believe. And I'm like, yeah, it's one of those things. Like, opinions. Most people can't really have their opinions changed because we are so steadfast in what we think and we're the center of our own universes. But like ultimately, like empathy is incredibly important, and I can empathize and I can understand where yours is coming from just as you can understand where mine is coming from, and that's all we can ask of each other. Just be respectful. Anyway, on that note, thank you to the listeners for listening. Sarah, can you please let us know where they can find you and more of your work?
I mean, you can find my written work on the Google's magazine website. Usually, I am most of the time just lurking around Twitter, where I can be found at Sarah Jo Smiley. And yeah, you can normally find me rambling about media or just whatever takes my fancy. Really.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining me once again to talk about this incredibly important topic, I feel. And the lovely listeners can find the podcast at Fats on Film on Twitter and Instagram, and myself at Queen Bee Says on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Did I say that one? The other T. Anyway, you'll find me. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you at the next one. And remember to stay fat. Yay!